Shifting to the wise advice I have for you. Actually, I was worried about that, and I asked an Irish friend of mine. I said to the president last night I was nervous, and one of my friends said to me, "Tim, you don't have to worry about being the graduation speaker. He's just like the dead man at an Irish wake. You need him to have a party, but you don't expect much out of him." I know you're all looking at your watches and in a fog anyway, but let me share with you at least one message, and that message is thank you. On behalf of almost 5 million Special Olympics athletes around the world who compete in over 90,000 games a year, almost all run by volunteers in China and India, in sub-Saharan Africa, in the Middle East, in Syria, even right now, and all over this country and this great state. On behalf of Mary Beth McMahon, our leader here in the state of Massachusetts, and on behalf of Carl and Lissa and Rachel and Keith and Patrick and Eric, who are here with me today, athletes of Special Olympics Massachusetts, will you guys stand up, please? Can I hear a little music? When you say body and mind and spirit, I was outside just before the graduation and we were taking some pictures with the athletes. And Michelle and Sam in your group, yeah, where are you, who are on the Springfield College Unified Soccer team, stopped and immediately started taking pictures with our athletes. So on behalf of all of us, Humanics, I can see, is not just a slogan and it's not just words, it's embodied in this college, in your work in physical education and sports studies and exercise science and physical therapy, physician's assistants, youth development, rehab and disability, and all the rest of you who volunteer, who give all those hours that the president spoke of, from a movement like ours, which depends on people who give from the heart, who combine body, mind, and spirit. We live, we thrive, we only survive if the graduates of Springfield College continue to carry their message into the world. So from all of us, thank you. You know that there are a million abilities in the human family, and I dare say, even today, no disabilities. Now you may say, how can I say no disabilities? How can I suggest that there is no such thing as a disability and only abilities we have yet to discover? Let me try to bring you into a worldview that might recognize that idea. Imagine that we were here, instead of being here for this glorious ceremony for a race, and down on the track are 6 athletes preparing for their Special Olympics 100-meter dash. And they're starting down here in section 26, and they're going to finish over here in section 7. And you're in the stands. It's a Sunday morning. You've got a cup of coffee. You've just finished an assignment, or you've just woken up from one, whichever it is. And walking to the starting line, you make eye contact with, let's say, a 10 or 11-year-old who's about to run. And at some level, you know that when he or she was born, probably their parents thought they got bad news. Maybe someone said, "I'm sorry." You know they probably didn't walk at 2 like many other children. You know that speaking might be difficult. You know that finding daycare was difficult. You know that finding a school is difficult. You know that making friends is difficult. You know that their moms and their dads had to fight for them, even as little children. Maybe had to beg for them. Maybe had to ask people to accept their child. Maybe at some level you can feel, even as they prepare to run, that they've been told a lot of negative messages about who they are. And then you snap to attention and the gun sounds, and down the track they run their 100 meters. Their arms are striding because their coach told them how, and their heads up because their coach told them to stay strong and firm as they run, and their legs are kicking high. And one of them finishes first, second, third, fourth, and the one who finishes third turns over to you, and maybe her mom or dad is in the audience, and you can see her mom jump up and say, "That's my girl." And she finishes third and turns, and she's got her arms up in the air. She's cheering. She's waving. Yay, that's my daughter. And maybe you could stop and wonder just for a second where you are. Where is the world where a child can be so proud of finishing third? Where a mother can be so unashamedly in love with her daughter? Is that a fantasy? Is it a fake? Or is it, as T.S. Eliot wrote, another intensity? A breaking through of a different message. A message that comes with so much less baggage than most of the messages we hear. A message that says, run, leave it all on the track, give the world everything you've got, and then raise your arms in victory and feel the joyful and precious tenderness of whoever you are, not just of her, but of you. Do you realize, and do you think, that little girl has a disability? Most graduation speakers come to moments like this to tell you about how to be successful, and they'll tell you about triumph in business or law or sports or education. They'll tell you about people who have reached the top, people who have no dis on their labels. Quite the contrary, they have long lists of accomplishments. I'm here to give you a different example. I think an intuitively and innately Springfield example. A child whom almost no one thinks of as a success. But in the things that matter most, I suggest these athletes are the true champions for you to model yourself on. Think about her for just a second. She didn't define winning by who she beat, but rather by how she ran her race. She didn't define her value by her grade point average, her GPA, but by a different GPA, by her grit and passion average. She doesn't judge people by their wealth, their looks, their resumes, much more likely to lead with trust and openness and vulnerability. Her beauty has little to do with the vanity that's on the cover of the magazine stand today. In my view, she has different abilities than almost anyone you have or I have been taught to admire. You just have to change your lens. I learned this change of lens idea from a photographer. He was down on the field at the Special Olympics World Games just down the state in New Haven a few years ago. And for the first time, the President of the United States came to the games, Bill Clinton in '95, and he sat at the top row of the stadium, and down on the field, just like all of you, all of the athletes were mingling, and they all had single-use cameras. Does anybody here remember a camera? Okay, they're little things, they have little boxes and so on. Anyway, so they're down in the field, and a professional photographer is taking pictures, and President Clinton is speaking way, way up high. The professional photographer looks over and sees a group of athletes, maybe 10 or 12 of them, and he's not sure where they're from, not sure if they speak English. He sees they've got their cameras to get pictures of the president, and they all have their cameras backwards. The lens is pointing on their nose. They've never used a camera before. And he goes over and tries to say to them, you're trying to get a picture of the president, athletes, and he says, you just have to turn the camera around and then push the button. The athlete responded to him in perfect English, thank you so much, but if you look through the viewfinder backwards, it works like binoculars, and you can see the president perfectly clearly. So remember, if you will, that photographer. We all so often get each other wrong, don't we? We all so often look across the room, look to our right, to our left, and our kitchen tables, in our places of business, and we get each other wrong. He was a good guy, but he saw labels. He had divided the world in his own mind into abled and disabled. He assumed, just like we all do. He judged. He concluded. And when we do these things, the worst case scenario is we judge and we assume and we conclude who matters and who doesn't matter. who's valuable and who isn't. We separate, we label. Labels become wounds, wounds become identities. Identities become conflict, and conflict creates fear and anger and blame, all because we started out in getting each other wrong. He had to change his lens. But think about the athletes. What seems so often to be too far away, change your lens and you bring it up close. What seems impossible becomes possible. What seems divided, if you change your lens, might reveal wholeness and beauty and giftedness. What scares you, if you change your lens, might just be another human being just like you, seeking safety, seeking love, seeking belonging. In your slogan, in your motto, you think, you profess, you believe in the integration of spirit. It is in some ways your spirit eye, your spirit lens, that will allow you to see wholeness before division. And I dare say that the question before your generation is as simple and momentous as this: will you choose to heal the world of division and seek unity? Or will you choose to label the world into categories of who is worthy and who is not, which will invariably create division? On your answer, unity or division, hangs not just the future of this college, not just the future of this city and this state, but almost of the entire world and planet. Graduates, today is your rite of passage. You will be momentarily bachelors of art and science, bachelors of independence and interdependence. Life is hard. That's one big message. You know it already. But you also know that you've got what it takes to lead it, fully alive. The curriculum now shifts. It is unity or division. The subject is not what you need to know, but why you are here. The grade you give yourself is much more important than the grade you give others give you. Don't wait for a later time to take the course of your purpose, of your why. It's not easy, and I can tell you ahead of time you won't pass it with the obvious answers. Your purpose isn't money or toys or beauty or power or boys or girls or any of that stuff. They all can help, but they won't answer for you the question of your why. That's the big question. Why are you here? For unity or for division? The syllabus now is your life. Every sunrise is a quiz. Every person you meet is a new reading. Please try not to judge that reading by the cover. Every moment of sadness is an invitation to go back and visit the professor. There is a final, but you won't attend it here. I ask you again, as you take this course, choose unity. When in doubt, think back to the Special Olympics athlete. Remember the message. Winning is not about who you beat, but about how you run and who you bring with you. Remember that the greatest freedom is the freedom of that athlete with her arms raised, and that's the freedom not to be afraid of the judgment of others. Nothing will liberate you like that freedom. Become fearless, not by denying your fears, but by facing them and knowing that despite them, you are still safe. Serve others in a new way, not because you are better or richer or smarter, but instead because you want to heal. Heal the breach, understand another person's struggle or suffering, and maybe even understand struggle or suffering because you are part of the cause. You will come to know, I hope, and realize that there is more to learn about unity also in silence than in all the talking in the world. One last caution. Your iPhone, your iPad, your iTunes, your iTouch, they're fun, but they're a distraction. Remember that your best device is your iSpirit. Okay. Your best device is your iSpirit. Tune into it daily, maybe momentarily, maybe every single second of your life. We live in an epidemic of distraction, and it's killing us. It's killing your spirits. It's destroying your sense of purpose. It's destroying your foundations. We have addiction and anxiety and depression all over us, around us, and within us. And at the same time, we're starved for authenticity, for real purpose. So keep your iSpirit updated. If the screen cracks, fix it with silence. Download all the free apps: Beauty, Wonder, Awe, Truth, Justice. Do what you've got to do to join us in our great adventure in Special Olympics and help us put a Special Olympics unified sports team in every school in the world so that every child will grow up learning to play unified, learning to feel unified, learning to understand unity. Join me and all the rest of us, especially Jacqueline Ortiz Miller, in feeding your body, your mind, your spirit. Keep your iSpirit updated. And above all, love, as the poet Rumi wrote, and be reckless, because love is recklessness. So we are in a moment of change, fellow graduates. The universe is open for unity. Dignity, I believe, is our common currency, and it is asking you, this particular generation, to lead a dignity revolution. See the ability first. Recognize that in every difference there is a different ability. Lead this revolution with the fun of human recognition and play. Fight it with the tools of peace and forgiveness. Wage it every week and every day and every moment with the quiet attention necessary to raise your arms too in reckless happiness and recognize in yourself and in others the face of God. Thank you, graduates. Congratulations.